Now, why? Why was I unthreatened most of the game? All of the game, really. Possibly because I knew the solution to what was happening was simply to move forward until such a point as it stopped being lethal or dangerous. My guess is but the reason to say Nemesis was scary in Resident Evil, or Scissor Man in Clock Tower, or the monsters in Amnesia Dark Descent, or even the motherfuckers in Penumbra, which I didn't play. I'm fair, I didn't play Dark Descent either, or Clock Tower, but anyway. The difference is that you know for a fact there's a standard exit. And in this, they're not going to climb ladders after you, they're not going to break down the door after you. You know there's a set issue that needs to be resolved, or an area traversed, at which point they will stop being a threat. The times where I could have been killed, I'm going to say, at most are 8. My estimation, just counting off the top of my head, is 5 to 6. Like, that's the only times where I could have died due to the actions of actual monsters. And there was no situation where I didn't feel in complete control. While they have the whole non-combat thing, requiring stealth, blah 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 thing fairly decently, there's the issue of feeling vulnerable, and given that everything was sturdy and I knew the parameters in which the danger and threat was taking place, I never actually felt threatened. All I had to do was leave. It's kind of like if you build a fantasy world that's too safe in some ways, there's no threat to it because, I mean, you take D&D, if the cities are safe, why leave them? Everything is dangerous. You encounter all kinds of shit out in the forests and the roads and the mountains and blah blah blah. But if the cities are safe, why leave them? So you have to have some sort of issue of vulnerability, and I don't think this game really had that. The monsters were faster than you and you couldn't fight back, and that's 2 points done right, but they could not pursue effectively. All you have to do is keep blundering through it, because that's it. That's really all there is to it. I mean, I guess you could say maybe Penumbra did it better, because what I understand is you could fight them back through inefficient flailing of physics objects like hammers and shit around, and do it that way. And that gives you options. It lets you put the player in positions where they aren't comfortable, and they might have to defend themselves or whatever, unlike Silent Hill 2 or Silent Hill 1. But no, it was tense, and to be fair, it was scary in its own way, but not in a horror game way, in as much as the threat of death was constantly looming. It was more of a atmospheric narrative horror, reserved typically for books and shit. I'm cool with that. I'm perfectly fine with that, but I can see why people would not like it. Because they came in expecting one thing and they got a whole different thing. I mean, for me, this right here is my bag. This is some good shit. They do body horror well. The story is profoundly baffling to the point where it kind of twists your brain a little. And not having everything explained neatly, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I mean, you know the point of Amnesia games. There's some fucker who lost his memory and now shit's going down. And the monster. So, there's that. But this one, as far as being a horrible motherfucker, is so far above and beyond Daniel from the Dark Descent that it's unbelievable. I mean, he was trying to... the one guy was tricked by a baron into fueling a ritual to propagate his existence eternally. And in this one, he's just trying to kill everyone through the most brutal and dehumanizing means possible. There's this passionate violence there that's really effective, in my opinion. Daniel was desperate and stupid, and in the end, amnesia and forgetful and afraid. But he was always a man with distinct motivations. Mandus is a fucking loon. Kind of evil mastermind that's just it's so terrible that you'd think there'd be some kind of hero to oppose him, but there's not. There's just himself. And I think that's actually good, fairly good to drive the narrative, actually. And if you were to put it in book form or movie form or whatever, it wouldn't quite work because of how it's revealed and portrayed. It would have to be from his perspective, wandering around, forgetful, and unknowing as a player would be. So I feel it does what it set out to do in some ways, and in other ways, if you expect it to be something else, it doesn't. I mean, this is just kind of being an apologist or whatever, but I honestly think it does what it set out to do. And narratively, I cannot fault it for that, because there's a lot of things I really like about it. But in trying to be like the old Amnesia, it failed miserably. And I don't really give a fuck about that.